you have improved your score from a 640 to a 720 in 2 months' time, right? How did it feel when you got to that achievement and you were like seeing the score flashing on the screen?
Honestly, I could not believe it because I was expecting somewhere around 700, or given the less time that I had for prep and the mocks that I was giving. But 720 was like, I was really happy because again, the aim was to get 700 plus, and 720 was just in that area. It was really thrilling. And the first thing I did, in fact, after telling my parents, was I called up Shreyas, who was helping me from GMATWhiz, and I just called him up and told him the score. So that was the exact same thing that happened.
I can totally relate to it. Like I remember my day when I scored that 740 and I was like speaking to all my teachers, all my friends, and I had a great party then. So I'm pretty sure that you celebrated that and basically, so
Right.
great. So let's do it this way here. Again, a lot of students who are going to watch this interview later on will be nearing round one because we are sitting in July right now. So many of them will be applying in September, October, around that time. So a lot of them want to understand exactly how to go about GMAT prep in such a short span of time. And many of them are stuck around the score range of 640, 650. And they also want to break the 700 barrier. So very quickly, I'm going to quickly share the overview of how we are going to proceed with this entire discussion today for all the people who are going to watch this journey of Heeral. So we actually cover it in a very different fashion. So instead of the general discussion around different strategies, we'll start with a quick introduction. Then we'll focus on the planning score improvement, and there we'll talk about 15-day plan. So we'll break things down. So as a takeaway, you guys will exactly know what is to be done in the next 15 days and then next 15 days and so on. And we'll talk about the verbal prep strategy because Heeral improved his score from a verbal 27 to a 40 plus in a short span of time. And we'll talk about some mock strategies about the online GMAT there as well. And then we'll take some additional tips from Heeral. So without any further ado, just a quick introduction about you, Heeral, like what is that you do today? What do you want to achieve out of the GMAT? What are your dream schools? Just tell us more about yourself.
Right. So I completed computer science engineering in the year 2021, so last year. And while I was in college, I came to know about the ISB YLP program. And this was back in January, and I was graduating in July. So I think there were some application deadlines, and initially I was not considering it that I want to do an MBA that soon because I already got placed before that. But then I thought, what's the harm in just applying, right? So I think later in April is when I thought, okay, let's get serious about it. And that time also it was similar thing that I applied, but I didn't prepare that well because I was not serious. And I did give an attempt earlier last year while I was still in college in my final semester. And after that, of course, 640 was not something that I expected because I was not that used to getting so low scores back in college. But then again, I took a break. I got more into the corporate world and getting more about how things work in a corporate setting. So I work at a pharma consulting company and more as a data analyst. So we work with data analytics, and after coming here, I understood that okay, what an MBA brings into the table, right? Yeah, it is a big asset, when you have something like that. And after meeting some more people, I realized that okay, we need to. So this is a good thing, and it kind of for me, I had a self realization that this is what I'm meant for. So then I started taking MBA as a serious thing, and I know there are colleges which accept GRE and GMAT, but again, I didn't want to have any second thoughts about MS versus MBA, so I stuck to GMAT again, and I gave a second attempt in the month of May this year. But again, this was kind of impromptu. So I did not. So my job is very time consuming. As you might know, consulting jobs are very aggressive in the work side. So, but I did not want to stretch it out for a long time because I knew that it will be very crunched. So I planned for a 2-month prep, and I thought, okay, this is what it is. I can't stretch beyond this.
Great.
So that's when this was around in March where I decided, okay, I want to do this. I did some research about what are the tools which I can use, what are the good practices that can help me. And I think I remember having this call with you as well. Uh,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah,
so
in
I
March
got
around
to
that
know
time.
about
Yeah.
GMATWhiz and I gave a call to you and you gave me the first consulting into how I can plan a GMAT again in 2 months. And then after that, that's how it started. And
Okay.
yeah, currently I am planning to work for some more time. I
Mhm.
am yet to figure out. So now it went beyond ISB. So I am considering some B schools abroad.
Policies.
And I think that can help a lot in terms of exposure and learning. So let's see where that goes.
So that's great to know. And in fact, the fact that you come from consulting space and you still manage to improve your score in 2 months is a great feat. And it's not like you just took the GMAT with a 640 and you right away started working on it again.
Mhm.
So you had a big break in between, I guess about 10 months or upwards of
Mhm.
10 months, which kind of gets you back to ground zero. So
Mhm.
that kind of an improvement 2 months along with the consulting job, definitely a very, very big achievement in my opinion. I
Mhm.
have worked in consulting and I've seen people working in the organization that you work with, and I know
Mhm.
how hectic it is. Trust me, it's difficult.
Right.
It's difficult.
Right.
So let's break this down. Let's talk about your individual sprints. So
Mhm.
let's first talk about very quickly. Again, I don't have a lot of things on the slide.
Mhm.
Just as a marker in people's mind. Let's focus on the first 15 days. So how did you restart your
Mhm.
prep? What was your thought process? What exactly did you do in
Mhm.
these 15 days?
Sure. So initially I knew, so I in my first attempt I was pretty much on my own, right? I did not
Mhm.
have any guidance, any coach or any mentorship from anywhere. But here, as I mentioned, I had a call with you and you connected me with Shreyas, right? So in the beginning, I think right from the beginning, I got some guidance uh,
Mhm.
regarding verbal from him. So initially we broke down verbal into the three parts and we decided which one to start with.
Okay.
So for me, what worked out was SC, CR, and then RC.
Okay.
So the reason being, my score was consistently low in all three of them. There was no one particular weak area. Okay. And after that, I realized that for me personally, I am more comfortable solving SC. At that time, I was very confident in SC for some reason, and I was less comfortable with RC. The reason
Okay.
being, I lacked patience to read the whole passage, and because given the time crunch, we have to read the whole thing, try to understand it, and I take some time to think and answer. So that was one thing I lost patience. And what happened is the GMAT options are so well structured that you are more likely to select the wrong option if you've not gotten the meaning correctly, right? So what Shreyas suggested was we should take up SC first because it will improve on how I'm taking sentences, reading, and able to break them into chunks, and
Mhm.
then move to CR because CR will help me understand the meaning. So the first part is the literal sentence itself. The second part is how am I extracting meaning out of it in CR, and then adding these two will have a good leverage in the RC section because once I've done this, half the game is done. Like I am improving on how I'm reading the sentences quickly, understanding them properly, and then in RC, it was I didn't have to put in any extra effort in RC.
Okay.
So
So let
that
me
was
break
the.
this down into stages. So if I remember correctly, last year you studied on your own using a well-known online course. So you had an online course with you, but there was no guide who was assigned to you at that
Mhm,
point of time. So you were studying on your own.
mhm,
This year, when you started your prep, you started with the GMATWhiz online course where you
mhm,
were assigned your mentor shares. You guys sat together, you looked at your scores, and
mhm,
in your scores also, even though you were equally, it was showing that you were almost equally good in all three. You
mhm,
felt that your comfort area is sentence correction, and that's
mhm,
what you feel more comfortable with. But
mhm,
still, when your mentor told you that, okay, even though this is your comfort area, we need to start with this, you took that advice
mhm.
very, very seriously and started with it. Now, the reason
Right.
I'm highlighting this Heeral is that because I speak to so many students. Just yesterday, I spoke to three students who were telling me the same thing, that I'm comfortable with SC, I'm not comfortable with RC. RC is my root cause. And I had a tough time explaining them, in order to improve your RC, you have to start from sentence
SC.
correction
Mhm,
and get that one sentence right. So glad that you brought that up yourself, that
mhm.
yeah, SC is actually linked to RC. Both of
Yes.
them work together. So great. So in this first 15 days, like, were you able to work on all three areas of SCCR and RC, or like how was it?
Okay. So again, just taking a step back. So the reason why SC is more important is because it is the fundamental of verbal, right? The fundamentals of how sentences are made. It. So I think you mentioned about the break, right? But coming back to studies, coming back to and taking GMAT seriously, it's always, I think, even in quant they say you have to get your fundamentals right. So I think for people who are equally uh, scoring equally in the three areas, it's good to start with SC because you'll get your fundamental basics correct, and then moving on to CR and RC is generally a good practice. So yeah, that is one. And second thing, so I knew that I wanted to brush up a little bit. At the same time, I wanted to start practicing more medium and high level questions and not do easy questions at all. Okay. And so I think in the first 15 days, majority of it went into SC because from the portal itself, I was so initially, even the mentor, the guide mentioned that 2 months is a very less time. We might not able to be able to cover everything, but I wanted to go aggressive. So what I decided is that I'll complete the course end to end because I don't want to leave out any topic because it is the fundamental that I wanted to build on. So what I did was, so in those 15 days, majority of it went to SC. The some part of it, a few days went to CR, but again, it was fundamental prep. At the same time, while I was once you learn something, you have to practice it, right? So instead of like practicing only on easy questions, I practiced only on medium and hard level questions. And apart from the portal itself, I had my OG on the side, so I completed the OG as well. So I think in the first 15 days, it would have been roughly roughly 30 to 40% of the OG was done.
Oh, great. And a very important point, Heeral, that you made was that you focus solely on SC. Like when I speak to people who are looking at an aggressive score improvement, their first thought is, okay, I know everything. I need to just wrap up this and move to mocks. So I'm pretty sure that you did not take any mock in the first 15
No,
days.
I did not. And again, so had it been me on my own, I would have started with a mock, seen what is happening, and then I would have taken steps in all the directions. But Shreyash, I explained that it's just 2 months and I want to take many mocks. But he mentioned we'll take the mocks only after we are good with our fundamentals and we are comfortable taking them. And that confidence with which he explained it to me, I blindly followed it. I did not have any second thoughts, but I know for a fact that if I was on my own, I would have definitely taken more mocks in the beginning, and that ideally is not that good of a practice. I think we should first be confident with our prep and then go ahead with mocks.
A very valid point. And Shreyas was all praises about you, like about the kind of diligently you were following all the advices. So that's really great to know. So let's move on to the next phase then. Let's talk about day 16 to day 30. So first 15 days, majority SC. You focus on your fundamental skills, learning how to read better, a little bit of CR, and about 30% or 40% of the OG is what you did in first 15 days. What did you do in the 16 to 30th day?
So yeah, after that, I moved to CR completely. So again, it was like a waterfall. I did not double any of the tracks. I wanted it to go in the flow. So in the first 10 days, I think I covered up CR completely on the portal with all the fundamentals and some practice questions. Now here I started practicing up. So I completed the OG as well. And I also started taking up some questions on GMAT Club. So I think GMAT Club as a forum is excellent when it comes to, having all the resources at your hand. But again, I got some guidance as to which type of questions should I start taking up. So we see often that there are some LSAT questions, and even the mentor guided me to take up only medium and high level questions. So that is one thing, because we end up wasting a lot of time if we take up a lot of easy questions. Although it feels good that we are scoring well,
the high score,
yes, but then we are not learning anything new. So initially, even while practicing, I used to score say below 60% in just a sectional test, and I was sometimes disheartened, of course, but then I also understood that I'm getting a less score because I'm doing things, topics which I
Was
don't know,
difficult.
so I'm learning out of it. So keeping a track of the error logs and all these practices really help with me being okay with scoring less in the beginning. And yeah, so that was roughly around the first, like, I guess, 10 days.
Mhm.
I also, so now there was a time crunch coming into the picture. So now things were getting a little serious. Um, I also, for RC, I did not do much of a prep as such.
Okay.
Now, this is the irony that I was least comfortable with RC. I was not even scoring great in the beginning, but I
Mhm.
put the least amount of prep time and effort on RC because by the time CR and SC were done, I was quite confident. First, I started with easy medium questions because first I just wanted to assimilate myself with doing a lot of practice questions. So I think roughly in this phase, I started practicing on the OG as well for reading comprehension, and I did less but very selected passages. So I started diversifying the passage topics by sections, and GMAT club, OG, everything just kind of. So I think in RC it was more about practice and not any specific prep as such. Coming to quant, so so by this time I had started brushing up on quant as well. So initially I wanted uh, to even improve more in quant as well.
Mhm.
So I had my practice and fundamentals going on, sticking to the OG. So this is roughly about how it went.
16 to 38 days, basically. So just summarizing the day 16 to 38, you focused on critical reasoning, like for the majority of the part. You focused specifically on medium and hard questions and even focused more on your weaker areas within critical reasoning based on the discussion that you had with your mentors and your own self-realization and through your error logs. And then just 5 days basically you had to spend on RC and it was majorly practicing.
Mhm.
And when you started, it was RC which was the weakest section. And this tells basically that RC in a way is basically a combination of SC and CR skills
Yeah.
combined. There's hardly
Um,
anything much that you have to do for RC
mm,
specifically. So those of you who are listening, RC is something you feel you have very big troubles with. There's a high likelihood that the problem lies in SC and CR, not just with RC. So you have to focus on that and solving it could actually lead to the solution directly.
correct, correct.
Okay, okay. So by this time, so if I understand correctly, by this time we have completed day 30. You have completed your brushing up of SCCR and RC. You have not taken any mock tests yet. Uh,
Mhm.
you started to feel the pressure of that 1 month remaining with you. So how did this 30 day 31 to day 45 go with you? Like
Mhm.
any panic? Like what? How did you plan it?
Mhm.
Tell us about this stage as well.
Okay. So I was not panicked for sure, because I knew. So by this time, I was confident like that I am giving my time and effort. So, uh, okay. By the way, in the last month also, it's like only my work and GMAT is something I'm prioritizing. I deprioritized everything else when it comes to
That's important.
giving time and effort. So by this time, I was happy for the fact that I have been consistent for a month and I'm not wasting time or doing anything. So there were no regrets, and I knew that if I keep the momentum for one more month, so again, here I would take a pause and explain that this strategy might not work for everyone because it is very difficult. It takes a toll at your mental health. So if you have a less time, maybe you can go for a sabbatical, or you can not have either work. So if you have less time, you should prioritize GMAT if you are doing it in a crunch time and not have three, four things on your plate. That is one advice that I would give. But again, yeah, when it comes to my journey, I knew for a fact that okay, my work and GMAT is only what I'm prioritizing. And by when this third phase started, I was confident with keeping the momentum. So I think consistency is a good uh, key attribute here. So if you're consistent with your prep, you'll know that you're learning, right? It's not that it's
Mhm.
stagnant. So it gives that mental peace that okay, it is going upwards. It's not staying where you are. So that is there. But again, now I think even the mentor suggested me to take up a lot of medium and hard level questions, focusing more on hard questions. So I know on the exam we don't get only medium and hard level questions, but when we uh, expose ourselves to a lot of hard questions, uh, medium and easy get covered inherently, and also even though the accuracy is down, you are learning. So, or you're like revising or getting into those nitty-gritty. So sometimes we know the fundamentals, but there are always exceptions and edge cases which are tested. So there might be some exceptions which you're not aware of. So this exposure helped in that. So the I think the mentor helped me, select a few questions, and I was focusing only on medium and hard level questions at this point when it comes to verbal and quant also for that matter. But again, I had, so in this period, I rectified that even after doing the prep, there was some particular weak areas in every section, especially in SC and CR.
That's what
A
I
couple
was
of them,
coming to, because when you're saying you're practicing medium and hard questions, the question which was going on in my mind was, okay, but you're doing random practice, or like you
no,
had a
no, it
plan in
was
mind
not
about this?
random.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's, yeah.
Yeah. So the idea being that when I started with this phase, I uh, took a list of questions, which I mean, and I did section, so topic by topic, I took up questions, and I solved like roughly around 20 questions in every topic. And I started entering like I maintained like a basic log to see how my accuracy is in each topic. So this is
Okay.
topic wise. And then what I selected, which are the lower ones, and surprisingly, the accuracy was fairly high in most of the sections, except for say two sections in say SC and CR
Okay.
particularly. So it shows that okay, that is a weak point. That's a pain. So this is how I identified the pain point. So maybe having an error log, or breaking your analyses topic wise or section wise is helpful to understand what your pain points are. And again, this was guided. I initially did not think that I would plan it this way, but this helped me identify the key points which I need to work on. And then I took some practice on that particular ideas, and then it became crystal clear. And in the end, I was more confident on those topics only. So this is, I think this is what happened in this
And did you
first.
start focusing on timing yourself at this stage as well? Like, how did you plan that? Like timing also.
So timing wise, I think right from the first day I was timing
Okay.
myself.
Okay.
Yes, here being a little aggressive on timing, because I think timing is something that I felt like it's good to be timed right from the beginning. So some people, they take up timing less. They don't even consider timing when they're solving in the beginning because they are learning and practicing the
Mhm.
fundamentals.
Mhm.
But I did not want to put myself in that sweet spot because I know I want practice in timing also. So that I kept consistent. But again, in this period, I definitely um,
You reduced it
was,
even more aggressively,
yes,
and
yes,
then.
aggressively correct.
So maybe when you were learning, it was like a mix of both. Learning was primary, timing was secondary, but still there in your mind. And now this also became a very important primary goal for you. Great. So
Right.
in this duration, 31 to 45 days, did you start taking marks, or it was just like focusing on your weak areas?
No, I did not take mocks
Okay.
because, as I said, topic wise, we have a lot of topics, and covering like
Mhm.
2020 hard level, medium hard level questions is
Mhm.
time consuming. And when you get something wrong, you go and deep dive into it and see where it went
Yeah.
wrong. So I spent a good amount of effort in doing all these activities. And by the time that was done, I felt confident with the mocks. But that did not that time did not come between this period. So I did not take any mock.
That's really great to know. So what you're telling me essentially is that in this period, you're not focused on practicing a number of questions. Your
Mhm.
main focus was to do questions and learn from them. So in the first month, you have focused on your fundamental skills. You have improved your skills. In the next 15 days, you focused on practicing, putting all of that into like practice, and also ensuring that you are learning, still learning from the questions that you're solving. So we are talking about a 2 month journey. 1.5 months have passed. You have not taken a single mock test, right? And
Yes.
then that's to all the viewers who are watching it. Those of you think, okay, in the last 2 months, if I'm planning, I should be taking like 10, 20 marks. It's just the exam practice that I'm missing.
Mhm.
Probably you need to reconsider how you're looking at your journey. So
Mhm.
let's now get to the last phase, like the 46 to the 60th day, the 15 days before your GMAT. So how
Right,
did you
right.
plan this?
Mhm. So, okay, I just want to point out one more thing, before we proceed to this. In the previous, so day 31 to day 45, I did take sectional tests. So,
Okay.
having, and that was on practice. So, taking
Okay.
verbal itself. So doing like 32 questions at a go from all the three sections. This is something I did, but verbal and quant separately. And I took a lot of these quick 15 minutes or 20 minutes tests. So that testing part was going on, but that was not full length. So yeah, that was
That is the right thing to do as well.
yeah,
Like we always
yeah.
recommend. The idea should be, again, I would actually end up summarizing this a little later. So let me hold on to that. So yeah, so you did sectional tests in 31st to 45th day. Now from 46 days to 60 days, how was your journey? Like tell us about
Yeah.
that.
Right. So from day 46 to day 60, it is like, okay, 2 weeks. But now I know that I have to only give mocks because one, I have exhausted everything I have in, and I did everything that I could. So now the next step was taking the mocks. But here again, taking different mocks. So I think I took around 4 mocks, separated at say 2 to 3 days intervals.
Okay.
And actually in the first week I took, I think I took a couple of them, and in the next week I took two, and on Saturday was my exam. So in the second week it turned out to be 3 full length exams, and the second
Including the exam, including the
yes.
GMAT basically.
And I think this particular phase was pretty straightforward. I did not have to think much because you give a mock, you sit and analyze it. If you find there's anything you're missing or lagging, you go back, you read about it. And if needed, I was doing some practice questions and revising the fundamentals, going through my error logs and my notes. That's all. These 2 weeks were pretty much that. I didn't do anything else.
See how simple your journey is. Like it is very, very clear, like this 15 days. And that's how GMAT prep is. Like people unnecessarily complicate it. They think, okay, they have to take so many marks and it is just about that. But what you're telling me here is basically you actually focused on the basics. You actually focused on the core, the foundations. Because what we understand, we don't understand is that GMAT at the end of the day is a test of logic. We need to approach it logically. There is no shortcut to success. Like you approach things in a way where you said, okay, let me first focus on my foundational skills. First 1 month, you completely focused on that. Kept your mind aside, no performance pressure with respect to what is going to happen on the exam, what is my score in a sectional test. And then very simply, you moved on to the second stage of your prep. Next 15 days, fine tuning, focusing on your weak areas, improving your timing, taking sectional tests, getting ready for marks. Because I come across a lot of people who tell me that, you know what, I'm taking 3 minutes to solve a CR question and maybe 10 minutes to solve a RC passage. They tell me this in the conversation, and after like 2-3 minutes, when I answer this answer to their question, then they say, okay, should I take a mock every 7 days, or should I take a mock every 3 days? This kind of questions are being asked, and I tell them that, see, if you have not improved your timing, if you are not even able to complete the entire test, what is the point of taking a mock test? You're going to waste that.
Right.
So you clearly understood that, okay, I have to fix my timing. I have to be mock ready. And last 15 days, yeah, slowly you take 4 mocks and got to the score. So let me ask this here, like in this 4 mocks, like what was your first mock score, in case you remember?
So I think it was 700.
Okay.
Yeah, and that itself was validating that okay, there has been
There is
at
a
least
lot,
60,
right,
60
yeah.
points of improvement.
Yeah.
But then I think it did cross 720. I think once I got 740 as well.
Okay.
But again, now it also depends on where you're taking the mocks from. So it's a good practice to take mocks which are more equivalent to how GMAT does the scoring. And more than difficulty of questions, it's more about scoring because it's important to understand that it's adaptive, right? So you might get easy questions and then it will adapt to that and you'll start getting difficult questions. And I think it's also important to understand how the quarters work, right? So I also did the timing quarter wise, uh, trying to give more time to first and second quarter, specifically the second quarter, because I think that decides what band you will fall into. And that was one strategy which I applied.
Okay.
And the other thing which I think I missed in the beginning was right from day one, I maintain my notes. So every small thing which I felt like I should keep note. I started taking notes, and what for me what works is something like OneNote or Google
Mhm.
documents, where you can just keep on adding, updating,
And
having
revise
some
it
color
really
codes for
easily.
what is wrong, you highlight it in red, what is correct, you highlight it in green. These small practices went on a long way ahead.
This is a really, really important things. Like,
Mhm.
and people who are filming this, watching this later on also, do make sure that you take a note of this. How to take notes, like use or not use Scratchpad, whatever you feel comfortable with, but highlight things so that it's very easy for you to revise things specifically instead of going through the entire document. So
Right.
that's great. Heeral. So let's now move to the next thing. So you talked about working on your fundamentals, right? You talked about focusing on SC, then CR, then RC. But probably this is something you did last year as well, and you took a very well-known online course which probably has a lot of reviews on the
Mhm.
internet. So what changed now, like from then to now? Like you're studying then, you studied now using GMATWhiz. So what
Mhm.
changed basically in your thought
Mhm.
process, in the material, or whatever like that helped you to grow?
Mhm. Okay. So I can highlight a couple of very distinct differences. One being there, I was pretty much on my own. Here, I had a guided mentor right from day one, right? And also the fact that I think in the last 15 days, I connected more frequently with the mentor, and that really helped in that fine tuning and helping. So I got a lot of advice when it comes to exam good practices and all of that. Given that mine was the online GMAT, so there was even more things to take care of from my end. But one distinction would be having a mentor, and second would be so I think here I now started focusing on taking the meaning into consideration, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to verbal, say for example, SC, many people think that it is just rule based. If you see this particular combination, you have to do this.
Mhm.
I think I specifically understood that it is not rule based. It is meaning based. Everything in verbal is meaning based, and that's how my perspective towards tackling verbal questions changed totally. That was one. And second is at that time, back in the day, I think I was prepping. I think I took all sections equally, and it was kind of a little scattered. Here, it
You're
was
not
so
really sure
chiseled
that
one
where you
after
are
the
going
other.
right or wrong,
Yes,
and there was
yes.
no specific focus to that.
Hmm. Right.
So great. So basically, what you are telling me is there are three things that changed. Number one is that you understood what GMAT verbal really tests. Because
Mhm.
earlier you are confused about, okay, I have to do grammar, I have to improve my reading speed and do this and do that. But here you had a very clear focus that I have to focus on my understanding of meaning. And you knew the relation that is there between SC and RC. So obviously that clarity helped you to focus on one skill at a time. And the mentor who was assigned to you, and you're connecting, I think, with your mentor about 10-15 days, once in 10-15 days, to get
Mhm.
discussions around how you're progressing. So this discussions basically help you in understanding anything apart from what you are doing needs to be done, and that
Mhm.
helped you to focus your attention. Great, great.
Right.
So that is these are really, really great point. So with respect to, let's say, the mocks, you did mention that you were taking mocks towards the end only, and you ended up taking the online GMAT. And I think there were some issues that happened with the online GMAT, and a lot of students asked us this questions that
Mhm.
online GMAT, should I take it or not? So I generally tell them no directly because of two, three reasons.
Mhm.
But I would like to hear from you, like how was your experience of the online GMAT and what
Right,
would you
right.
recommend?
Yes. So, I think my first GMAT was in person where I got the 640. So I knew that, okay, I knew how that operates. But in the online GMAT, honestly, for me, it is very convenient in a way that you're in your home, the thing is, COVID and everything kind of made it happen in that way. But I think online GMAT is good when you have two things in place. One is a very high internet speed connection, because I've seen cases where, because of the lack in that bandwidth of internet, what happens is there's a delay in questions, and there are some technicalities which lead to some time being wasted and other things. But if you have confident, like say over 100 Mbps of Wi-Fi connection, you're good. And second is a good laptop. So these two things are something that you have to take care of. Apart from that, it's pretty much the same. Like on the screen is the same thing that you're seeing. There's no difference as such. There is a proctor who's online, and it's more about them being there to guide you through it. So they are very approachable, very friendly. I did not find any problem there. So as I mentioned, so internet connectivity and having a little high-speed laptop with more specs, because the exam software itself is a little heavy, and you are supposed to turn off everything else to only use it. But it was pretty straightforward, not much problem there. And the third very important thing which people really consider is having being used to the whiteboard, because we are used to the pen and paper, right? And I know in the in-person GMAT they give us a scratch pad and a marker, which is still similar to pen and paper, but here you have to use a whiteboard and a marker. So yes, you have to keep erasing. Yeah, that is also one thing. But I think mentally I was prepared with all of this. So what I used to do is, when I'm reading the next question, side by side, I'm erasing the work that I've done on the whiteboard, and pretty much that was it.
Okay, great. So your experience for the online GMAT was pretty smooth, and thanks for these inputs like the high-speed internet connection and a high-spec laptop. These are two things that everyone who is thinking of taking the online GMAT should definitely take into account. So here coming to the next point, like so use the GMATWhiz course. So what is your review of the course? Like how did you find the course overall? We discussed about the mentorship thing. I think you have highlighted that enough already. So apart from the mentorship, what other things in the course you felt were really helpful overall?
Yes. So I am from a data analytics background, so I know how important data points can bring into picture, right? So once you start analyzing how your prep is going, it can help you take better decisions, right, of what to do next. And I think the AI software which helps us do that without a hassle. So just a click. In fact, when you open the portal, you're already shown what are the key improvements, the study plan. All these things really help uh, to stay on track, and also the portal itself was very smooth. So I did not go for say offline training or something like that, because I knew I wanted to go on my pace. So this really helps. So so I did it in 2 months. Some other person would do it say for 4 months. So the portal in itself helps plan properly, identify weak areas after all the tests, and all these things really were good and helped me through the journey. And I mentioned about the one-on-one mentorship at detail, I think. And
Yes.
I think the mocks themselves were very good in terms of they were very similar to how the GMAT itself is. And after the mock, also the analysis of every question of the score
Entire
itself,
mock.
and then the explanation of of every question was again very well structured. One thing that I can have as a comparison point was this: the course that is designed here is simple and straightforward when it comes to like explanations. It's not very detailed, and taking into consideration a lot of things, because then you're bombarding yourself with a lot of um, points
You
to
have to strike the
remember.
right balance,
Yes, I
basically.
mean, I can summarize the verbal course teachings from the portal in one line: is that you have to uh, understand the meaning, and then you are good to go. So all these things were not something that I knew earlier. And I have checked out some other portals, and there either they stuff you with a lot of detailed learnings, which kind of is a good thing in itself, but then
Confuses
you
you at
bombard
times.
yourself with a lot. So the portal was very simple, and I think the structure itself, the flow with which you can plan and customize everything, it was very nice.
Great, great. So with that, we'll move to the closing remarks from you. So any specific additional tips that you want to give to students, and in case anyone of you who want to work with us or want to understand about GMAT, here are the details of our website, or email ID, and my WhatsApp number in case you want to get in touch with me. But any closing remarks from your side here, any additional tips that you want to share with the students?
Mhm. So yeah, I can probably share a couple of points which so one is, I would say, do your research. So you have a lot of resources online, and you have a lot of options of how you can do things, right? So when it comes to training, or so one thing, if you have less time, you will be better if you are taking some help. Initially, I thought I will not take any of the help and I'll be on my own, but then that requires a lot of time and effort. So if you are on a crunch timeline, one, reach out for help, do your research. I think taking consulting someone for your GMAT prep journey is a good thing, that everyone should at least take up once, so that they know how
They're able
what
to
will work
perform
for
at their
them.
optimal, even if
Yes. So I'm
probably on
talking
their
about
own they
like
can reach to us.
one-on-one personalized kind of a mentoring, uh,
Mhm.
is something that one should seek out to. I'm not saying go for A or B, but
Mhm.
have that done. Taking notes is something I cannot emphasize more on, because that is a key thing that helps you come back to whenever you feel okay. When you make this mistake in a same topic again, right? You can go back and update the notes, like, okay, this is where we can falter. So having an error log and all these things. um Also, I think it's all about your mental mindset about how you're taking it, right? So being confident, being courageous is something that you should have that self motivation within you, that you will be able to do it. Just that mental confidence that you will
That
do it,
affirmation
and
should come.
that transits. So, and also, having said that, you should also have that much assurance that even if it doesn't, you can think about it, like you can probably try it again, or you will find a turnaround around it. Having that positive mindset also uh, will go a long way.
Very, very important. I think there is nothing more important than being positive and giving yourself those affirmative messages that you are actually doing well, you are going in the right direction. So
Mhm.
these are really important things. In fact, I've seen students not doing well just because they try to judge their scores and try to put unnecessary performance pressure on themselves too soon.
Mhm.
So great work, Heeral.
Mhm.
You did not do any of that. You made sure that you focus on the foundations and then go one step at a time. So that was really, really great. All the best from my side for your journey. You have just done, I would say, 40% of your journey till now, like the rest
Right.
60% thinking about the schools and all of that. But I'm pretty sure that as you grow in your career and you move forward, you continue doing your research and all of that. But at any point of time, if you need any help, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be glad to help
Sure.
you and be a partner in whichever way possible with you.
Yep.
So thank you so much
Thank you
for
so
taking
much.
out time today. It was
Yeah,
great.
yeah. My pleasure. I hope people find this helpful, and feel free to reach out to me. I'll probably share my LinkedIn ID with you, and you can add it, and feel free to reach out to me. I
Sure.
would love to help out.
We'll add her LinkedIn ID in the description on this video itself, so you guys can
Mhm.
definitely check that out.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.